Okay, cool. Well, I guess we should get started. Are you all right with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Welcome everybody to the Saturday. We're recording now on Saturday, the second day of Poplar Union's Outside In Digital Festival, which has been it's been wonderful. And when we came up to it, this is one of the things I was looking forward to the most, which was seeing all of these lovely faces in one Zoom call, all together. Since having to close Poplar Union for COVID and lockdown, all of this, we've just missed having you guys doing things in Poplar Union so much. So this commission was a great chance to make this happen and get you all in one spot. Hello, we just got Dickson has just arrived. Is that Dickson? Oh, good. Yeah, what we did for the festival was we've commissioned you people, because you people make lovely things happen in Poplar Union when it is open. So we really wanted to hear from you and try to see if we could help facilitate something happening. And we contacted all of you, myself and Beth. As a music program, I contacted the musicians in this room, and Beth, the theatre and dance, spoke to the more theatrical and dancey of you, to come back at us and give us some ideas of responding to a theme of looking out, looking in, and looking up. I'm so happy to have been watching those videos over the last few days. This is the first webinar I've done like this, so please have patience with me. There's a wedding going on outside. My baby's crying a little bit, and there's a strange cat that's trying to get into my window. So yeah. So many nice faces. I just see we've got Josh arrive. Hello, Josh.
Hello, everyone.
Hiya. We've got, so Josh from Grand Union. We've got Dickson, I think. Hey, Dickson.
Hey, Dickson. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. How are you?
I'm in Uber going home.
Okay. Great.
It's late. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We've got Anna in the corner there signing, or my corner. We've got Danielle Teale, Mac from Dende Nation. We've got Izuru from Mishti Dance, and Ramjack down there, who's just arrived too. Hello. We have Lynn as well with us. We have Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed there. We have Vijay, Patel. We have Ahmed Kaisha from Saudha. We have Ed as well, part of Dende. Have I missed anyone? We all good?
I'm Adam from Dende. Hello.
Oh, sorry, Adam. Sorry.
Good.
Well, maybe we could start with the Dende crew. So we have Mac, Adam, and Ed. Mac, could you tell me who Dende Nation are and how did you respond to this idea of looking out, looking in, and looking up?
No, I can't tell you who they are.
Loosely.
Dende Nation are a group of musicians, and we use percussion to put music across. The musical form that we do is called samba reggae, which originates in Salvador, which is the capital of Bahia in Brazil, one of the states in the northeast of Brazil. Oh, I could talk about that for ages, so I won't. But it's good to show the respect to it. The things that we did in response to the particular theme that you set for us, sort of, how can I put it, is it's kind of almost like our sort of day-to-day. It seems a bit weird, but that's kind of the COVID thing is kind of, the COVID-19 thing is kind of just like an extension of what's going on for the samba reggae movement anyway. It's sort of come from people trying to, excuse me, trying to express things, get things sorted out. Various liberties or freedoms that other people have enjoyed have suddenly been taken away once people have been, how can I say, locked down. That kind of feeling has been behind the movement for ages. So a lot of those things we've already had to deal with, and we've already been dealing with. So we have a bit of a coping mechanism. We're quite flexible and we adapt quite quickly to things. So the main thing was that for us was, when we did our video, was that was the actual first time we'd played together since, I think, mid-March. We've been practicing online, stuff like that. Keeping in contact with each other, making sure that we're all okay, trying to help out in various different ways that we could. And by that, I'm not just talking about going and doing shopping for each other. I'm talking about being there as a support system, because we all feel up at times and we all feel down at times. And that is also part of what Dende Nation is about as well. We're not just a group of people playing instruments, or some people would say hitting instruments. Okay, it's a support network. We are there for each other, and we work with each other to help each other. And via doing that, we all grow as people, as individuals. We understand each other better, which hopefully helps us to understand other people better. So when we presented our particular video, we also showed poems that were coming from personal places within each one of our experiences. I mean, for instance, we have one NHS worker that was part of our group that explained how she felt over that particular period of time. And she's still kind of going through it, actually. And so we were also trying to be there for her as well during this particular time. So, you know, it's a little insight into the experiences of each one of us, but also you got to share that time of us actually coming back and playing together, which was really special for us, because that is our sort of like raison d'etre. We need that to survive. You know, we need to come together, to see each other, to play, and to get this kind of connection that's deeper than just playing instruments together. It's a lot deeper than that, but it's done via the connection of playing instruments together. I hope that answers your question, Will.
Yeah, I think we could sort of go deeply into yours and almost everyone's video here. And there's so many levels, but from the video really got a sense of that, like, collective support, but also these individual voices that came out of it. sort of how what you were talking about as the music and the doing it as a coping mechanism to certain lockdown states that were around before lockdown and still remain, I thought was really, really beautiful, really interesting. I'd like to ask Ahmed Kaisha, because your video, Letters to God, really, and many of these videos too sort of responded to that same sort of coping mechanism or of through art, through the production of your art, of what you do. For Mac in this, it was poetry and playing, and in your piece it was through visuals, through poems, and through music. And could you just tell us a little bit behind what those different voices, what was it that bound them all together in your video?
Are you asking me?
Yes, please, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, many thanks. Many thanks. Well, yes, you got it. You've got the actual theme that we are focusing on. I'm personally an agnostic man, but I found this. I I was observing people, and especially, as you know, Saudha is mainly focused to promote Indian classical music, and especially audience of Indian classical music found this music as a therapy, as a remedy, as a ventilation, and especially during this COVID, the online series that we are doing, we get huge feedback that this series, these art forms are helping them meaningfully to cope. You rightly said the coping. They cope with this COVID depression, and this is obviously the God. The idea of God is very symbolic in this video, in this production. Although the artist says, you will see sort of there are some short videos where God was even criticized quite sarcastically, and sometimes this is a dialogue within a self. So God, you will see sort of in some videos, perhaps the artists are looking at the sky. Sky is illusion, definitely an illusion, and that symbolizes God. But sometimes the artists are closing their eyes and looking at themselves. That is an inner self, a dialogue with inner self. So this is a monologue, but again, this is a dialogue with inner self, and definitely in some extent with God. The idea came to me. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with a great Latin American writer, Carlos Fuentes. So Carlos Fuentes has a short story that intrigued me, that influenced me quite phenomenally, and that is called Letters to God. And that has a completely different dimension, actually. And then I thought through these productions, perhaps the audiences will have a chance, will have an opportunity to look at themselves through this poetry and music, and especially the music that I composed myself at the end. That shows definitely a kind of prayer, but again, it has a criticism with God as well. So what was your question, Will?
No, thank you.
I touched the question that you asked me.
I think you touched on that again. There's so many things to go into, and with those, I'd like to ask Dan. Actually, no. If Dickson, how's the sound there in your Uber?
Sound all right. Can you hear me fine?
You sound good to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
to move on to your, I guess, moving on from what Kaisha was talking about then, and sort of, and stop me if I'm wrong, but the piece which you put together, Amisa, was it? It was Amisa. Which,
Yeah, I mean,
can you, because for me that sort of was dealing with that idea of like of the struggle that a lot of people have been getting through lockdown in this situation, very physically through you and your partner's dance, and the movements that you make were really for me this sort of restlessness of having to stay inside. And could you tell us a little bit how, first, what Amisa is to you, and how that idea of lockdown, of maybe of our mental health through these times, came through your piece?
yeah, I mean, Amisa itself is a word. It's a Latin word, which means loss. And first of all, I just want to apologize. I know I'm in an Uber. I've got to wear a face mask so you can't see my face properly. So sorry about that. But yeah, let me just talk more about the piece. Amisa is it's a word that means lost. And I think what I was going through the whole lockdown was I felt lost about a lot of things, a lot of questions, like, financial situations. And then, mentally you question yourself, you question your career. Do you really wanted to do this? And now that there's not a lot of income, a lot of things are closed, is this, you start questioning what you do as an artist and what's important to you. I think for me, it was just responding to that and see whether, I guess, go deep in myself in that question. What is it I'm here for? Why am I here for? And having doubts, is it okay to have doubts? And if it's okay, what is the outcome? And as you guys have seen, there's been a lot of talk on mental health nowadays. But I know that I come from a culture where we sort of overlook mental health because, you got to be tough and strong. You got to be a man, I guess my piece and with the guy I dance with, Rajiv, we were just questioning ourselves with those questions and then see how we can respond to it. We filmed it in Stratford, Westfield. It was quite windy, so sorry about all the shake on the camera. And the composer was Roger Guela, and he also, I put a question out to him. How did he feel? So the music is also in response to that lost feeling, and how, what are we now? Are we in a better place, or we're just aware of what's happening? So to be honest, that was a work in progress. I don't know what it is yet. I'm still working on it. I'm still thinking on it, and yeah, I'm just reflecting a lot on my behavior, the way I carry myself, just questioning a lot of things. Of course, as you all know, the racial inequalities that have been going on in the UK and then around the world as well. And then you think about certain things about, like, it's okay, but it's not really okay when you think about it. So it's just that, am I lost in this society? Am I lost in myself? It's just a question I was asking to myself. And yeah, I think that was it really about the piece. I don't know if you guys got it. Yeah, that's it, mate.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. No, I was so touched with it. I just wondered, like, how well, I think I could ask you more and more questions. Maybe we'll come back to it, but that sort of, like, all of you, especially the ones that worked so collectively and put their pieces together. Maybe not, I mean, like you were saying, Mac, you were rehearsing on Zoom, and I know many of you have got together to carry on your practice through this medium, and then get together as people, in the flesh. But like how that, that those conversations that become the music for you, in your case, Dickson, with the music and the movement, how that mixes into each other. But one thing you were talking about the self-reflection that you felt through that piece. And I'd like to ask Lynn next, if that's all right, because your piece really was a look at yourself. It touched as well a lot, as Dickson say, with the racial situation and the sort of extra focus we've all been feeling over the last month since the killing of George Floyd.
Yes.
And from chatting to you as well through your process of doing it, it really sort of changed. It was a real movement by making it and doing it. It changed, like you were saying, Dickson, as well, about a sort of work in progress and how these things sort of change. Could you explain, Lynn, a bit about what your piece is and how you put that together?
It's kind of, as you see, multi-layered. My experiences from basically coming from reading about my DNA and finding out that I was part of, my DNA says that I'm from the Congolese tribe, the Bantu-speaking Congolese tribe. Mm-hmm. So that was one aspect of it, as I said in the beginning. And then I, with all the Black Lives Matter thing, as we all are seeing that's happening, I really kind of thought about my blackness and how I see myself and how, how I carry myself. I thought about my hair and all the rest of it. So I shaved my head because, number one, I did it because that was something that was did to Black women, slaves that came off the ship, to shave away their culture, shave away every aspect of themselves, because their hairstyles were very exotic. As much as, Black people's hair might seem difficult to manage, but their hairstyles are very exotic, and they made a point of shaving away their culture. So I did it for that. And then like I said, I was introduced to my scar, which I got in the carnival, 1976 carnival, when I was a very rebellious teenager. And it's in the center of my head. My hair's growing back now. As being a very rebellious teenager, I walked out of my mother's house, went to the carnival, met my friends, had a great day, but in the evening it got really, really dangerous. And I walked into the beginning, the middle of the police and the boys. So that was kind of reliving that whole thing again, reliving my rebellious youth. And and then talking to these two women and thinking about scars, and the Congolese tribe say that your scars are a way of your body being your book. And as I said in the docu-piece, so I wanted to find women who had scars and how they felt about their scars, how they were living with their scars. And these two wonderful women, one with had breast cancer, had a mastectomy, and another who has epilepsy, living with epilepsy all of her life. And talking to them, and them showing that their scars are their strength, and that they have gone through so much and are still living with them. And it all kind of came together like that. It was just and I learned how to use iMovie, which I'd never done before, and I'd filmed and documented. So it was a real journey, and I've come out of it kind of, loving myself a bit more, as it were, loving my blackness, and still wanting to see change as far as how, we're perceived and stuff. But yes, I really enjoy doing it, and I hope you all enjoyed it.
And I loved it. It was incredible, and such a the interviews you had with your two friends about their scars and about what the deeply personal look at the scars we wear, the things on the outside that people see, and they have this deep
and the scars inside as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to get a friend who's bipolar. One of them's bipolar, but she didn't really want to be interviewed, didn't want any kind of interview. But I wanted to show scars that we carry inside as well as the ones that are visual and that people see. So that might be the next phase of this, because I'd like to carry on doing this kind of thing.
I hope you do, Lick. I want to watch more, and I hope that it's been really great to hear, like you said, Dickson and some other people, how it's sort of these ideas are sort of, or doing this might have pushed other work to be then come and happen, and hopefully one day in a place like Poplar Union, in with people as well as on the screen. Danielle, do you mind if I move to you next, because your piece, Looking Down, with the collective of dancers with dancing with Parkinson's, was really also quite collective. You know, you had a lot of different voices reflecting. Well, could you describe what it is, and what is it like? How did that? Also, if you could describe a little bit of the process of how physically you made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me and part of this amazing group of people. It's really lovely to hear. I loved watching all the films today. And yeah, this opportunity it gave me the privilege really of getting to know in a more personal way a group of dancers that I work with regularly, and some new dancers. But to describe the collective of dancers that I work with in this process, we resident at Poplar Union. Usually, we are a small company of dancers who have Parkinson's diagnosis. And for those that don't know, Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disease. And there's a big movement of dancing for and with people with Parkinson's across the UK. And I've been doing this kind of work for many years. But partnering with Poplar Union was an opportunity for me to live an ambition that was to bring those that wanted to the opportunity to perform. So to come away from the kind of concept of just taking a class, and actually to be able to contribute artistically as a collective alongside myself and my artistic musician who I work with really closely. So for a couple of years, I'd been really wanting to bring dancers together to have a look at the concept of what the difference is between our identity as an individual and our identity as a collective group, and whether that be people with Parkinson's identifying together as a collective, or whether it just simply be as human beings. We have a deep sense of wanting to connect. You know, it's one of the things that really came up for me during lockdown and bringing dancing onto screen was that even in a sort of setting where you're encouraging people to improvise and bring their creative movement ideas to a screen, if you actually sit back and watch, there's so many moments where movement connected across different Zoom boxes. And I just think there's this inherent connectivity between us as human beings, which during lockdown was really challenged. So when Poplar Union brought out this commission of looking in, looking out, particularly I focused on looking in, looking out, because I felt looking in was very much a process that I think, as some of the other artists have said, you know, that sense of looking into yourself and that introspection, which so many of us did during this lockdown, and we still are as artists, because we can't get out there and do what we want to do, a lot of us anyway, especially in the dance world, dance and theatre. And then the looking out was more to do with trying to find that sense of connection with others. So I really jumped on that idea because it was already a question that I was so interested in anyway, and specifically with people with Parkinson's, because I feel, and they very much talk about this, that they become identified with the condition. So the sense of who they actually are as an individual person gets very lost in the mask of wearing an illness and what that looks like. So a year ago, we came together and created a dance piece based around this topic of connection, collectivity, whatever you want to call it, and individuality. We performed it at Poplar Union, and this commission opportunity gave us the chance to continue that inquiry together. And it was such a special experience coming online to dance. I really felt like there was an opportunity to get to know people on a really vulnerable and personal level that somehow just didn't happen in person in the same way, because the attention is so focused in on this small box, and a question is really thought about, and each individual person is given a platform to speak, because you can't speak over each other. You can't do that classic thing of bouncing around and not really ever getting into an answer, because otherwise nobody hears anybody. So we have to wait for each other. And that process meant that when we came together to dance, we had to wait for one another's physical dance responses, as well as when we came together for conversation, we waited for each other's verbal responses. And so across I think it was around 8 weeks that we had between when we were told about the commission and the release of the film, we danced, we talked about this theme. The dancers contacted me with written responses to the kind of idea of connection in isolation. And some people sent pictures and all sorts of things. And initially I was just going to produce a gallery of images and words, and I have done that, and so that kind of sits alongside the film. But then I don't really know where it came from, actually, this idea. I just decided, oh, well, you have said looking in, looking out, looking up, but you haven't said looking down. So I just decided to make a film where you're looking down at your feet. But then also, again, for those that might not know, walking is can be a huge challenge for people with Parkinson's. Okay. And so just a simple thing of asking people with Parkinson's to film their feet as they walk just felt like such a special opportunity, because so many of the responses that were coming back from people were about walking. You know, I think we all would connect with that anyway. Most of us filled our time during lockdown with as much walking as possible. So it just made sense. The contributions that came in sort of sparked the idea of what the film would look like, and what the words that are spoken in the film were recorded by the dancers with Parkinson's, and they were words that they'd sent in to me about their experience of lockdown. And so the whole film has a tone of sharing the unseen experiences of lockdown, which come from, you know, people whose voices aren't always seen or always heard.
Yeah, I thought there was one line in it. I think it was like, we are made of brittle bones and thin skin. The one of your that I just haven't been able to forget, really. That there were some other ones watching it today, but that was really beautiful, I thought.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the demographic that I work with, and in many other sectors, were having to face up to vulnerability in a way that we all were, but certainly you know, people not able to go into hospital appointments, and, you know, recognizing that there were certain practices that they had day to day that were helping them feel like they were surviving, and that they were all just stopped. Yeah. And that at least coming back to dancing gave them something to keep them feeling themselves, their identity as a person, and not just a person with a condition like Parkinson's.
Thanks, Danielle. I think through all of this, and all of you people in front of me having to sort of move some of their practice online can feel, for me personally, can sometimes feel really, really difficult. Vijay, if I'd like to ask you follow on from what Danielle was saying, because your piece, Asperger's Question Time, used this very medium that we're using now, and the Zoom call. Like how did that change? How did using this mad media affect what you do? Did it change what? Because that's a piece I think you've done before previously. And how did that all come about?
Yeah, so just for background for everyone, Asperger's Question Time is an exercise that I do within a theatre show that I made a couple of years ago, but was touring last year, which is called Sometimes I Leave. And the question answering is a live kind of exercise within the show. kind of checking in to kind of make sure everyone understands where I was at. So it's a show about my experience of Asperger's. Things happen, and there's a Q&A, and it's just checking in with the audience to kind of make sure that, you know, if anyone wants to ask any questions, just make sure we're having that kind of dialogue throughout the show. So that's like fundamentally part of the show. And it's fundamentally part of like what I do and how I want people to understand autism and the activism and advocacy that I do in my kind of practice anyway, of just kind of raising awareness about autism and the kind of wide spectrum of it, that it isn't so kind of niche, and it's not really something that people can really just understand from, you know, reading a book or something. It's really getting to know each individual person and their experiences, because it ranges so vastly between person to person. And so so what this commission did was obviously make a kind of a way for me to look at what my practice looks like now, how that shifts, how I can maybe revisit material. It felt really important to not transfer shows like a show online, but actually really kind of make it relevant for now and how it's evolving, because it didn't feel like making something new was also the thing. It wasn't like, yeah, it was kind of like the midway between. So actually kind of just using material to kind of make something new out of it. And who knows where that will go, you know, from now on. It might devolve into something brand new and like completely not what I've made before the pandemic. But the idea behind Asperger's Question Time as well is that it's putting myself in quite a vulnerable position with an audience where they can ask me anything, and I don't know what's going to be said. It's looking at like the kind of nuances of like the responses, the nuances of conversation between a neurodivergent person and maybe other neurodivergent people or neurotypical, just to see like the kind of differences in like interactions, for example, that we haven't got this sort of set social codes, and you know, I don't really adhere to like social codes, you know, and that comes up in the question answer. Like, I'm just going to be very open with telling people I don't do, you know, things in the way that people would expect me to do it. I don't know what people are expecting me to like behave in a certain way, you know, like I'm here on this call with you all, but like my responses are going to be very, very different, obviously. So as we all, you know, as we all respond differently. But yeah, it's highlighting particularly autistic kind of responses and interactions and all of that communication. And it felt, coming back to what I was saying about kind of putting myself in that vulnerable position, Zoom very quickly, like I'm sure a lot of us find, very quickly became like an exhausting medium to talk to people, even friends, even just anything. It was just like, oh, I've got a Zoom. Like, how many times we all just sat there and gone, oh, I've got a Zoom next, like, you know. And it's not because of the people that are going to be in that call, but it's just the format itself is just, you know,
tough, isn't it?
You feel like you need like a whole downtime afterwards. So then I was thinking about Zoom being how Zoom is accessible, and if is it accessible, questioning a lot about that from the start of the pandemic. And I still can't really work out if it is or not. I don't think it is for me, really. But like, I just create my own access and boundaries around it, so I know how I can participate in it. It's like limiting the amount of Zooms I do.
Yeah.
Only participating when I really like need to for like work or anything like that. But for social things, it's like it soon became a thing of like, I'm sorry, I'd rather just have a phone chat. Or
I agree. I think
like
sometimes it was this, let's do Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, when did phone calls like stop being a natural
yeah, but the important thing for this commission was that I don't stop the work that I'm doing on research, advocacy, and really just kind of championing autistic voices, because through my experiences raising awareness of other autistic people who are in lockdown right now, who maybe really are locking down and isolating and are struggling to get out of the house because, you know, I was doing the same walk for about 2 months just in the local park, but in the exact same way for a sense of routine. And I was thinking for for autistic people who thrive on routine, it is absolutely shattered everything they know about the outside world. So like, you know, looking out is a lot about kind of looking at like what the world looks like now if you're staying in. And there's lots of things about this commission where it was like, this felt right because of in and out and lots of things, and allowing people to still look in on autistic experiences. So inviting people into a Zoom to make that the thing, make that the topic of conversation, so that we are really focusing in on a particular experience. And I think it was a challenge. It was 10 minutes. I had to go through it for 10 minutes because that is the exercise. I can't like shy away, but the putting in access conditions in the actual piece felt really important to keep that part of the thing, because that is part of the show anyway. In the live moment, someone would leave and come back, and I would like demonstrate that so that we know that that's an access thing for everyone. Anyone can have like do that. People just need to go away, because sometimes when you're on a Zoom call, it's like, do you know when to, like, is it okay right now to just go and get a drink? Or because it's also everything's so visible.
Definitely, it's all out there, isn't it?
As much as Zoom is like inaccessible, it's exhausting, a lot of the kind of like negative things I mentioned, it is very, very highlighting of a thing. Like it really amplifies everything, because I don't know if you were saying it before, but about everything being focused on this little screen and this little box, like it is all kind of just drawn on like that focus. So if Asperger's question time is the thing, it's like everything is all focused on that. It's all amplified, it's all kind of, so I mean it's part of a process. It is like one of the first things I've managed to kind of shift, alter, rework, change. But I knew that instinctively after a while of thinking about the format, it felt like Zoom was the kind of
it seemed to fit and add a bit even more focus from
and it keeps the sense of liveness that in my work, that for many of us, like you were saying before, Will, about the difficulty of shifting your work, and it just feeling like an impossible thing to shift your work for some practices. My work's like really live, so I mean it doesn't sit well for it to kind of be like too kind of pre-recorded or edited or anything like that. Like that video piece has not been edited pretty much. It's just
that was it.
Start to like just clipped at the ends just to make it kind of like whole.
Yeah.
Actually, there is nothing edited in that. Bit of sound just to amplify, but
one of the other pieces, Vijay, and I'd like to say hello to Alex, who's just got here, I think, from work. Hello, which was also like a very sort of open conversation, but pretty edited, in that you were having a conversation with yourself. Thanks, Alex. Yours really, I thought, was really shed a light, I guess, on a part of lockdown, a bit like you were saying too, Vijay, that I hadn't thought of in such a way, and was really touched by it. I thought it was really beautiful. Could you, like, did that go through? Did that take a long time to make? Could you describe a little bit? Also, so when you were saying, Vijay, about that idea of walking, of going for a walk, which is quite central to part of the end of your piece, Alex, in these streets that we walk in, sort of putting your vulnerability out there. Would you mind just describing a little bit, Alex, about about your piece and how that came together, sort of physically?
Really, it came about from an inability to create anything initially,
Mhm.
because there felt like this real friction between what I wanted to do and what I felt like I could do. And similar to what Vijay was saying, working in a live context a lot of the time previously, the idea of having to shift to a digital format it just felt like a totally new language to try and wrestle with. And I went through ideas in the initial sort of few weeks of when we got the commission. And a lot of them were sort of typically draggy, in the sense that I was using a lot of sort of like lip sync ideas, a lot more sort of like cuts, or it was a bit more campy in that sense. And none of it was sitting right. And then also for copyright stuff, obviously we couldn't use any actual sort of songs for YouTube or anything like that. So when that happened, I actively thought, okay, so here are the limitations that I'm kind of in. It's probably going to be beneficial for me to actually just really push into that. And then that's kind of where the piece emerged from. It was this, it was kind of the sticking point for me between of like, I've got my camera, or I've got my phone camera. I can edit on iMovie, and I've got myself, and that's it. What can I make with those things? And then I kind of boiled that down to like, okay, well, what skills can I do, and what things do I want to speak about? And that was really hard. The wanting to speak about it, that was really, really tough, because I don't know if anyone's already said this, but just pandemic being completely overwhelming, but then this also sense of bereftness, like there's almost this inability to express or put a thumbtack on, like, this is how I'm feeling right now about this specific thing. It just felt like there was 101 different emotions about 101 different things that were occurring in our environment at the time. And it was really hard to kind of pin down on one thing. So that's kind of where this conversation between my two selves came from. It felt like there was differing parts of my identity, more than two really, but for the purpose of 10 minutes, I kind of just boiled it down into two. Having this conversation with themselves about, this is what I'm experiencing during this time. What are you experiencing during this time? And I knew I wanted to lean into the idea as well of using sort of Zoom or FaceTime, of being like the mode of us witnessing it, because like Vijay says, we've been on it so much during this time that it's been so exhausting. But I wanted to see how I could dramatize it in my own little way with the editing, and with sort of like little clips of music and stuff like that, and how it could be sort of like broken and fragmented towards the end. And then that graffiti on Commercial Road, I just generally found. I found it there when I was walking literally just down the road to Sainsbury's when I first came back to London. I spent 2 months away up in the northwest in Lancashire, where I'm from, with my parents for the first part of lockdown, and then came back down. And that was the first thing I saw basically when I came back. And that just kind of felt like, oh God, there's that thing I also have to sort of contend with in a way as well. And I was struggling with being creative, like completely during lockdown. It was really hard, particularly in a performative sense. I was writing quite frequently, but actually performing, I think obviously all of us experienced some limitation, or at least a total stop to that in some way. So it was just a real push to kind of get back out there. And the piece really is about me working towards doing that, and working towards being brave and expressing vulnerability in both a medium and a form that I'm not familiar with. And then also just the wider idea that this pandemic and COVID has been a real reckoning internally for myself and for other people that I've spoken to. That's been echoed. So I definitely wanted to sort of pay homage to that as well, that as well as like huge societal shifts happening and conversations and debates being had, there is an internal fracture happening as well. And I find it quite useful to examine that in myself first, and then hopefully that can be reflected outwards through sort of my behavior and actions. I hopefully can be a bit more questioning and curious about sort of where I'm sitting in the world. So yeah, it was an exploration of that. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yeah. Cheers.
Yeah.
Again, sorry, you're gonna have to. It's like not enough time to talk to all. You could do like an hour with everyone here, and appreciate that, Alex. I'd like to ask the Visionary Underground and Mishti Dance crew, and there's 1, 2, 3 boxes in front of me, but maybe with is it Coco I can see, and Bubbly. Hello. You're muted at the moment. If you could, but your piece. Hey, are you all right?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, nice to see you. Your piece.
Nice done, everybody else, by the way. What you got to
It's
say,
been lovely to hear everyone.
Well, can we hear
a few ideas of what we might say?
Yeah, good. Well, your piece was really, for me, like reminded me, of something we've not been able to do too much, which is get together and have a dance. It's supposed to be Carnival this weekend, yeah, there's a real sort of I thought like a really uplifting and like looking to the future element of your piece with Ramjack doing the music there. Like, can you describe a bit of like how you put it together and what the idea was behind it? If that's okay.
Do you know what? There was a time restraint here. There wasn't a lot of time to collaborate, make something, to put out a bit decent piece of work. So there was a piece of music that I had from my band Visionary Underground from about 20 years ago, to be honest. And it was actually Isuru that suggested perhaps we use this piece and then remix it. So we got the track over to Ramjack, said to him what we'd like, right? Told him what I'd like, and he went off and did it. And so we collaborated, remixed it on. Also, you gave us a brief, looking up, looking out, looking in, and all of that. And then, so got the piece of music, and then it was just about making a video to it. And as I say, short space of time, trying to film something and put something together that was, decent sort of thing.
Yeah. How's it been?
Everybody else has been talking about such deep stuff. Right? I come from dance music world. I'm a VJ. I'm a photographer and a designer as well. But a lot of what I do is about visuals and music and all of that. So one of the things, as you say, in the lockdown we've not been able to do is just go out and rave or party or dance. So, everyone's doing it in their front room. They're not out and about anymore. During lockdown as well, Bubbly, we used to go to that forest. There's a piece of footage in there with the forest. We used to go there, and we live around the corner from each other, but we would still go in the separate cars to go there because of this whole social distancing and all of that sort of thing going on. So it's kind of a bit like what our lockdown was like, wasn't it? Yeah. And as I say, and I have to say that from Isuru's first suggestion of using that piece to taking it over to Ramjack, who's a genius, who in a matter of days just did exactly what was asked. Great. Because I couldn't begin to work on a video, Ramjack. I couldn't have begun to work on a video until the music was there. So, yeah. Like I say, to be honest, as I say, some of what everyone has said, it's all really deep and where it's coming from. And I have to say, I think really it's just come from.
For me, though, personally, when Coco and Shu asked me to be involved, after being like weeks and weeks at home, and, it does affect mental health. There were some really great times of, drawing, doing arts. It was a bit of a roller coaster. So to be asked, I jumped at the opportunity, an opportunity to listen to music, express myself through movement. It might have been something I would have shied away from before, but I just saw it as an opportunity to kind of spend some time with Coco, listen to the music. And like Coco was saying, being out in nature was really good for us. It was just really nurturing. And it helped with connection because there was just so much lack of connection. And even though there was loads of Zoom things that we could take part in, and I'm really grateful for that, just that lack of connection without even noticing, I could see, my levels of happiness depleting on some days. So, I love being in nature. It kind of tops me up. It's like connected to source. So that was always really nice. And then to film, you know, in nature, and also having the contrast between, you know, coming from an Asian culture and that heritage, and then going from, you know, my
being
up,
Asian, born in London, we live in two cultures. We have one in the house, we have one when we leave the house, you know? So in that aspect, we had that Asian side, and then we had that very much London side, you know, Western side or whatever. So yeah, it was like a whole portrait of that as well within that. And you know, ironically, as Asian girls, normally, you know, we're not allowed to go out. We're used to not being staying in, locked in. Do you know what I mean? That's how we grew up. So yeah.
I think,
yeah, sorry, go on.
No, is it like Mac just put in the chat there, sort of agreeing with you and saying that there's a profound deepness in the expression through movement, you know, that stuff does come out in your video, and actually what you just said really went back to what Max said before about how this lockdown that we all, you know, this COVID lockdown, there've been other lockdowns going on throughout our lives.
Yeah. We was born lockdown, if truth be known. So, you know, every bit of freedom we get, you know, as I say, we looking at it now, it wasn't necessarily we sat down and we were that deep about it. I just thought, I want something with dance, I want something with movement, I want something that, yeah, just is.
I was the willing party.
She was the willing party, thank goodness. Otherwise, I really don't know what I would have done. So.
Yeah, but it's been an honour to have this opportunity.
And they say sometimes, thank you. Sometimes they say when things happen, if they're meant to happen, they just happen quick. And it's almost like you gave us like 4 weeks. It's like, boom, we got to there was no time to even just get on with it, do it. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks.
A nice piece of work at the end of it, you know?
I mean, it's been amazing, like seeing your piece next to coming after like Danielle's piece, so like the real mix of different things. And sometimes, you know, we need a little kick up the bum to just do it. So if you get that deadline,
I need the deadline, darling. I need the deadline. Otherwise, I'm still making it. Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So I'd like to turn really quickly to Imtiaz. And when we asked you to do your piece, which is like I found extremely positive and jubilant, and used the sort of educational and multi-generation of South Asian music students that you work with, what made you decide on the 3 songs that you chose? And could you describe us a bit the choice that went into that?
I mean, this is your theme: looking out, looking in, looking up.
Mm-hmm.
The first song, which is we have 2 compositions from 2 great Bengali composers, Tagore and Nazrul. This first one is Nazrul, who's actually looking out and saying, you know, what's going on is so many, you know, sort of it's all there actually. You know, talking about the darkness, and we are, you know, we're facing a world of problems. And then second one is talking about the inner strength. Like, you know, if no one comes with you, you should be able to win that. Because, you know, I work in a hospital, as you know, and I have seen deaths and problems that COVID is bringing to us. But at the same time, you understand that if we lose faith, if we lose hope, then there's no chance of winning this battle. And hence the second song is talking about your inner strength, and the third song is a great Pete Seeger composition, which is done by the children, talking about we shall overcome, basically in 3 languages, Bengali, Hindi, and then English, and giving it a multicultural, and also at the same time giving it. Can you hear me? Yeah. So and at the same time, it's we will try to mix it, as you say, a positive spin to it, because it is a really project that I had to work hard. Because, like, as you know, I have about 30-40 students, and all of them took part in it, and all of them did visual audio recording from their own setting. I had to take classes, Zoom, whatever, and obviously then we had to make a video. And it actually brought us together. through this project. So that was a great opportunity, and thank you, Poplar Union, for giving us that opportunity. And I'm pretty sure the musicians who worked behind the scene also came out with some beautiful sort of linking between these three songs. And people who hadn't seen it, please do and see. Although it's in Bengali, then it's come up to the English sort of Pete Seeger song. So I'm pretty sure you probably would like it in a different way, because in our lives we have our sorrows, we have our difficulties, but we also have hope, and we should win.
Yeah, thank you, Imtiaz. That was, I mean, really that sort of resilience and like sort of strength to go through really came across with the three songs.
I didn't realize, Will, I don't know whether this is the right forum to mention, because I thought we went for the word resilience, then resistance, but somehow I found today the songs of resistance, but I think we meant songs of resilience rather than would be an appropriate word than resistance. That's what is there, but here we go.
Oh,
but that's absolutely fine.
No, well, we'll change it later. Apologies if it came out. I think both
that's
that
right.
resistance against, some of
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of a similar sort of thought, but it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a beautiful positivity to it. We've sort of run out of time, but I'd really like to just talk to Josh really quickly, whose video wasn't didn't come out. It came out yesterday, but he could only speak with us today. And Josh is one of the members, sort of band leader of the Grand Union Regeneration Band, who were able to record a few tracks. And well, Josh, could you tell us a bit about? It was great to see that this was actually something we were able to get recorded in Poplar Union, which was such a vibe, just to actually see people making music within those four walls that have been empty for so long. So that was a really a beautiful thing, really. Can you tell me, like, how did you come up with the tune together, and then how did you get it together? Because you're a group of what, 8 to 10 musicians, and everyone had a bit, like, can you tell us a bit how it came together and what your ideas were?
Unmute. Yes, yes, mate. Will, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
For organizing everything, having us involved, and in the invitation. And I've seen all the pieces. You guys all rock. Really cool stuff, and it's such a pleasure to be involved. And as you're saying, we're a big band. We have to improvise. It's improvisation. We have to play it loose. And I'm sure that's what all the artists here have to take that on board. When you're with so many people, you work loosely. You vibe out the room. If someone plays a chord, someone reacts. If someone plays a different note, you react in that way. And it's a communication. And as we were not playing our instruments for such a long time, everyone was very worried. I had many phone calls to say, I'm not going to say which instrument because I don't want to give anyone away. But a lot of the guys were like, oh yeah, I haven't touched the so-and-so, I'm not going to say which instrument. I'm going to be terrible. It's going to be rubbish. I said, whatever. Let's just get in the room. When you're in the room, it works. So that was the important thing. So that's why I was saying thank you, Will, for organizing that, because actually the original idea was actually like Vijay and a lot of other people were saying, it was going to be a Zoom recording. And then we were trying to organize this idea. Yeah, we'll do a Zoom recording. And then we thought, well, the way we make music, improvising, is going to be terrible for us. We could not have pulled that off. The only way we could have pulled anything off is to be in the room. So once that lockdown was easing, get in the room, and we made it work. So we appreciate the space, and we just came in, made the sound. And the song was about The song was originally wrote about gangs, and it was from the perspective of a young person in a gang that had been groomed into a gang, and that was their only viewpoint on life. That lifestyle was the only thing they knew, and it was a very glamorized lifestyle for them. And looking outwards, this is what we see around us. We see the powers that be. They're practically act like gangs. It's gangs the way we are controlled. So it was a metaphor about the way we are pretty much controlled as, you know, what's the word? Public civilians. Us civilians, we're all controlled like as by the gangs that rule us. And looking inwards, that wonderful, you know, as artists, like everyone is here, that 6 months, if we were in positions where we don't have to work, you know, some people work, artists have to work, we have to get on trains every day. When people don't have to do that every day, and that time of reflection, it's incredible the amount of work you can get done. So that was the other element. And looking up was our view of the future. What is good? This year has been such a change in all of our lives and the world. The future from here on out is a completely different landscape from everything we've known before. So that was our looking in, looking out, looking up.
Wicked, Josh. Thank you so much. I know you also recorded another track in there, so don't keep that too secret for too long, yeah?
Look out, coming soon.
Look out, okay. We've sort of gone over our time, and I apologize if you know, it's a few people I've not had a chance to talk to. If we maybe run over a little bit longer, is that okay with you guys? Maybe just go on a little bit longer. Is there anyone that would like to speak and sort of pick up on anything that hasn't happened? I know that Ramjack down there hasn't got a chance to speak, or from the Mishti Dance and Visionary Underground, and also the Ed and Adam. Would you like to sort of add anything about the process, or any thoughts on what's been said? Just put your hand up, or just say hello.
Well, before you move on to the next speaker, is it okay to leave now?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Will. Thank you, everyone. Please, the Letters to God is available in Poplar Union Space, so please have a look. Okay, cheers. Thank you then.
So much. Bye. Yeah, Ramjack, would you like to say something in sort of response? Like, how did that, like, working in this time? How did that work for you? Did you enjoy the experience?
Yeah, very much so. It was it came about as a natural progression of knowing Coco and working with Visionary Underground for a very long time, and then being in the lockdown and making something happen out of that, which I guess was the source of the idea. Mm-hmm. Because what resources do we all have when we're locked down? And for example, I had a conversation with Coco about the words, you know, the looking out and the looking in, looking up, they all have different meanings. You know, you can take them up as, you know, phrasal verbs, looking something up, looking up to heaven, to the sky, looking in prospectively, or looking out for somebody else. We had that conversation, and because, you know, Coco had that work on the table already, and because we've got a long-standing working relationship, it was quite easy just to make some decisions as a result of the conversation, which were completely natural. So one practical thing that came out of it was, as a result of being in the lockdown, was if I was to vocalize those words, then how was I going to record them? And I was doing a lot of headphone work because I've relocated my studio to the wall next to my neighbors. So a lot of headphone work going on, and it seemed the easiest and quickest thing to do to plug the headphone into the microphone socket and speak into the headphone and say those words. And so a normal sort of recording studio situation would have been very different, which generates a certain atmosphere, which generates a certain amount of a way to edit, a way to process the sound. So that was all informed by circumstance and getting something done and making sure that Coco had it by the time, that give her enough time to work within the deadline. So she needed a certain amount. I think it takes a video editor a lot more time than it takes an audio editor, in my experience. Hats off to video editors across the
There's a
universe.
big nod from Coco going on.
Yeah,
you can't see.
exactly. So it sort of informed, the part of the process, and the way that it came together seemed very natural. That we were able to do that because we know each other, we know what the parameters are. We know what is required. It was just a question of making it happen. And I think, like Coco was saying, what could she pull together that was gonna have some value? Certainly to us as artists, we all value a certain amount of the process, I suppose, and outcome that we want to share. And if we don't reach a certain standard, we're reluctant to share it. And so to get that out during the lockdown, I thought was a result. So again, hats off to everybody that's done that on this project.
Yeah.
Did you want to respond, Coco?
No, I just wanted to say what he was trying to say was that we just want a certain quality and a certain standard.
Yeah.
Not really just bish bosh get something out. You want something that just stands up and is, and normally, if it's a piece of music, it's a piece of art. Often we make these things without a deadline, but the minute you start bringing deadlines in, it changes what you then do. But there's a balance in all of that, the balance of the deadline and the balance between you wanting to work on a piece until you're happy with it, not having to give it up because the time's run out now, you see? Yeah. So
we thought when we were talking about doing this, we had a really nice conversation about that, like, process of making something, of the doing of it, making something, and the product, like the thing at the end, the production at the end.
Yeah.
And actually we were saying that, and it might be different for everyone there, but part of what we wanted to do was help the process and not worry too much about the product at the end. But because of lockdown and the difficulty of not having gigs, not being able to go to rehearse in front of people, not having that deadline of being at the gig and having to play your records or play your instrument, or. But
as an artist, it is all about the final product. You want to produce something that's good. It's not just about, like I say, bish boshing it out. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, what are you putting it out for? You don't want to be putting out things half done or not the entire story or all of that sort of stuff. So I understand what you say. You wouldn't get someone and they're making a painting and they're halfway through it and go, I'm going to put it out to market now. It don't work like that. So, but then, as I say, it's a challenge to work, to be able to produce, like I said, say that whole balance in between. Like I say, me normally, if I'm on a video, I'll work on it for months because I'll keep coming back to it and I'll start going into the intricacies. So I've never put out a video in 2.5 weeks, right? Which is from the time that I had and that's to shoot it and put it out, see? So,
Yeah.
But well, it was a good challenge and it was a good project.
I think that's it, this situation of everyone, and like a lot of people have alluded to it, like having to work within the limitations and like learn new skills, trying to figure out the way in all of this. I'm gonna call this sort of to the end, if that's all right with all of you. But I really, really want to, like, from my heart, massive thanks to all of you. It's been an absolute honor to hear what you've had to say. And as I said sort of at the beginning, just to get you guys all in one Zoom, I mean, getting you all in an actual room would have been pretty impossible in real life. But, part of my job at Pop Union is getting your names on a piece of paper in a program, and actually seeing you all chat in the same Zoom call is a real honor and privilege, you know, and make some of the good things of doing my job there is like moments like this. So I really, really appreciate it. There's, you know, I talk about that sort of process and carrying on. We're going to open up a sort of more of a open and community sort of commission, so smaller bits of money, but for anyone else that wants to respond to the same theme, we're going to open up in the next few days. I mean, and also just looking around, seeing all these talented people, if you guys want to chat to each other and make something together, I highly recommend it, because you can already see the sort of little connections and similarities between some of your work. And yeah, if you want to get the contact details of anyone, please give me or Beth a shout, and hopefully we could do it in a place like Poplar Uni before not too long. So thank you very, very much. And also massive thanks to Arena and Anna, who've been signing for us. I think it's Arena now thanking you. So thank you. Is that thank you? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. And yeah, if you haven't checked out the videos, do watch them there on the YouTube playlist. I will be sharing them all out. So yeah, many thanks. Have a lovely evening. Huh?
Thanks, Will. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.